The manga begins with a flashback from 8 months ago. Sakura Makoto, a 16-year-old boy, is informed that he has been expelled from school. Sitting calmly, he reacts with a smile and a laugh, as if he doesn't take the situation seriously. Meanwhile, other students watch the scene in disbelief, thinking it must be a joke. As rumors about Makoto's expulsion spread among the students, he walks showing no concern to their comments. They say he hit a classmate and was expelled after just 2 weeks at the school. Damn, wouldn't you know, the truth is that he tried to stop someone from getting bullied, but ended up getting into a fight. Even though he was the only one who got beaten, unsurprisingly he was forced to leave because the bully was the son of the student council president. While reflecting on this, a boy calls him in the courtyard. And of course, it is the son of the student council president. He approaches Makoto and starts mocking him for getting expelled. Without giving him a chance to respond, he kicks him and insults him, calling him trash. Makoto is thrown to the ground and has a drink spilled on him. The bully taunts him, saying he should have chosen better before trying to play the hero. Makoto, injured and kneeling, only lets out a weak sound in response. Later, Makoto returns home hurt. When he tells his parents about the expulsion, his father, both angry and shocked, started questioning why he would cause trouble when both parents are busy. His mother, trying to solve the situation, picks up the phone to call the school. Neither of them asked what really happened. Not even his parents supported him. Without a second thought, Makoto heads downstairs and decides to leave home. His father tries to stop him, saying it's not over yet. But Makoto replies, saying it's over. As he closes the door, he thinks to himself that it's all his fault, taking the full weight of the injustice he has suffered on his own. Alone and discouraged, Makoto looks out over the city from High Point. He lets out a tired sigh, reflecting on how complicated the adult world and social bonds are, full of senseless rules and absurd limitations. Sitting on the high ground, Makoto wishes for a life with more freedom and happiness. Suddenly, he notices something strange in the city. Huge, mysterious structures have appeared out of nowhere. He realizes the ground has shaken slightly and is surprised to see that many of these buildings have appeared at the same time in different parts of the city. Makoto is shocked by a strong tremor, much more intense than the previous one. He grabs onto the railing to avoid falling, startled by the impact. Then he stares at one of the mysterious structures up close. Curious and intrigued by what is happening, Makoto approaches one of the structures and notices it is identical to the others that appeared earlier. Looking closer, he spots a staircase leading down into the dark interior of the structure. Surprised, he wonders if it's possible to explore further. A boy sees on social media that the mysterious structures haven't only appeared in Amore, but all over the world. As he watches in shock, other users post images of strange creatures that have emerged from these structures. A hooded figure with a skull face catches attention. Someone laughs at this, but most react with shock and doubt. As one normally would, Makoto runs toward the entrance of the structure. These buildings have come to be called dungeons all over the world. Seeking freedom and a new purpose in life, he decides to enter without hesitation. This step will change his fate entirely. Along with the appearance of the dungeons, massive earthquakes strike the world with an unknown epicenter. News reports show that people have been attacked by creatures after entering these structures, and some have died. The government issues warnings and advises the public to stay away from the areas. Investigations and emergency evacuations are announced. Makoto carefully descends the long staircase of the dungeon, heart racing and eyes wide open. Upon reaching the bottom, he finds a huge cave filled with sharp formations and a mysterious atmosphere. Enchanted, he can hardly contain his excitement, exclaiming how amazing it is. Inside the dungeon, Makoto hears a voice in his mind informing him that the level system has been activated. Confused, he asks what this means. The voice explains that by saying status open, he will be able to see his information, items, and magical abilities like in a game. Curious, Makoto tests the command and is surprised to see a glowing interface appear in front of him. Makoto looks at his status screen and becomes frustrated upon seeing extremely low attributes. A voice begins to guide him, explaining basic concepts like HP, MP, and skills. He tries to ignore it, saying he understands. But soon, the voice reveals that by leveling up, he will gain a random skill or enhance his current one. His is Fire Magic Level 1 with a rare feature of infinite level. Makoto encounters a Level 1 slime and decides to test it as his first enemy. The system voice explains that his infinite level up ability allows him to surpass evolution limits. He becomes excited, thinking it all feels like a game. As he tries to approach, he trips and injures himself. The voice then instructs him to point his hand at the monster and say the skill's name. Determined, Makoto follows the instruction and activates his magic. Makoto uses Fire Magic Level 1 for the first time, hitting the slime directly. The creature is engulfed in flames, and he watches fascinated by the effect of the attack. After defeating the monster, he receives the notification that he has leveled up. Excited, he gets up, finding the whole experience extremely fun. The system voice announces that the tutorial is over and wishes Makoto good luck. Curious, he asks the entity's name, which responds that he can call it whatever he wants. Makoto chooses dropping out Chan, saying it's a great name. As he moves away, something strange appears before him, and he wonders what it could mean. Right after the tutorial ends, Makoto encounters a massive and intimidating creature, a minotaur. The system displays the recommended level to face it. 20. With a nervous smile and cold sweat, he lets out a forced laugh, realizing it's completely out of his league. Makoto is brutally hit by the minotaur and thrown hard onto the ground. Groaning in pain, he tries to recover and quickly activates his fire magic, shouting the skill's name mid-fall. Even though he's hurt, he doesn't give up and tries to counterattack with everything he's got. Lying on the ground, Makoto realizes he didn't manage to use his magic and opens his status to understand why. He sees that his MP is 0, which makes the failure more obvious. As the Minotaur approaches, he remembers a new skill he gained upon leveling up. With a newly acquired sword in hand, he prepares to face the monster with everything he's got. Confident with his new skill, Makoto faces the Minotaur. But instead of fighting directly, he runs. The monster shouts that he's dead while Makoto runs toward a slime, planting something. He finds exactly what he was looking for and smiles, ready to put his idea into action. Makoto quickly defeats another slime with his sword. Upon confirming his victory, he wonders if he really managed it. Soon after, he gets the notification that his level increased by 3, reaching level 5. Surprised and sweating, he realizes his rapid evolution ability is more powerful than he imagined. Makoto discovers he has gained a new skill, 1000x experience points. With it, each monster defeated give 1,000 times more experience. He realizes he leveled up much faster and gets excited about the potential. Motivated, he clenches his fist with confidence, ready to face even more dangerous enemies while the Minotaur watches him, preparing to attack. The next day, Makoto's parents are worried about his disappearance. His mother rushes into the room and tells his father that she received a text from him an hour ago. Surprised, his father asks where he is now, and the mother prepares to reveal what Makoto said in the message. As his parents discover that Makoto is in the dungeon, he faces the Minotaur again. Now with confidence in his eyes and already at level 15, he charges toward the monster. Determined and without hesitation, even panting from the battle, Makoto spends half a day in the dungeon and learns many things. He discovers that even if walls or the floor are destroyed, everything regenerates over time. Additionally, the monsters respawn after a period. With this, he realizes he can use this cycle to train and evolve endlessly. Makoto continues testing the dungeon's rules. He notices that as he approaches the stairs, the Minotaur stops pursuing him. Thinking of taking a break, he decides to send a message to his mother, but notices the connection is unstable. He also comments that even the items seem messy in the system. Despite the danger, he remains calm and carefully evaluates his options. Makoto confirms another rule of the dungeon. Monsters can't leave it. He uses this to his advantage to retreat, go outside, and rest for a while. However, upon returning, he's caught off guard and thrown against the wall again. Realizing that even with a break, the battle is far from over, Makoto finds himself cornered with no way out. A new monster appears, and he's out of mana, low on health, exhausted, and hungry. His attacks have no effect, and he can't level up. Completely exhausted, he faces the desperate situation without understanding how he ended up in this position. At that moment, the monsters Makoto had previously defeated begin to respond. Realizing the opportunity, he quickly reacts and attacks, seeing the perfect chance to gain more experience and change his critical situation. A slight smile appears on his face, showing that he doesn't intend to give up. Taking advantage of the monster's respawn and his ability to earn 1,000 times more experience, Makoto defeats enemies one after the other. His levels rise rapidly, 19, 22 until he reaches level 25, as he moves forward with determination, showing that his strength is now real. Makoto defeats another powerful enemy and notices the huge leap in his evolution. His level jumps straight to 43 from a single battle. Impressed, he understands the potential of his multiplied experience ability and how much this can change everything from now on. Makoto, dirty and panting, smiles enthusiastically. After everything he's been through in the dungeon, he feels something new: freedom. To him, that chaotic and dangerous place is in fact liberating. 2 weeks later, a helicopter flies over a modern city while a crowd gathers below protesting. Signs are held up and voices echo forcefully. Everyone demands that the portals to the dungeons be open to the public. During a UN meeting, representatives from around the world discuss whether the portals should be opened. One of the leaders stands up and states that the items and level system obtained in the dungeons cannot be explained by current science. He advocates for using these discoveries as part of a new technological revolution, and amid the silence in the room, makes a direct appeal. Please open the door. During the debate, a voice opposing the idea is heard questioning whether the investigation was truly thorough. The voice claims that this is not a sufficient reason to open the portals. It mentions that within the dungeons, neither modern weapons nor communication equipment work, which makes traditional science useless there. In response, the advocate for opening the portal states that the world needs people with high levels, not armies, and suggests abandoning old ways of thinking to face this new reality. The man argues that any citizen, regardless of region, should be able to explore the dungeons freely. He proposes that the state buy the items obtained from inside, considering it the most effective path. He emphasizes that it's necessary to warn about the dangers involved, but that the decision to enter should be the responsibility of each person. According to him, the reward system is working well. The narrator states that despite ignoring the dangers, the dungeons offer things like dreams, money, fame, and freedom. Therefore, it would be necessary to give a name to those who choose to explore them, but without treating them as heroes or as reckless. The suggestion is to give them a neutral name: the player. 8 months pass. In December, a new dungeon with a recommended level of 40 is shown in the Ayamorii province. The scene focuses on the 5th subterranean floor, highlighting that the events now take place in the present. A group of adventurers faces a terrifying Minotaur, much more intimidating than the ones they have faced before. Despite the tension, one of them says they are fine. The monster is so out of the ordinary that it doesn't even have a defined recommended level. The Kudo siblings group is in despair in front of the Minotaur of unknown level. Ya and Yui try to convince Hiro to flee, but he must fulfill his role as a background character by sacrificing himself to ensure the others escape. Aware of the risk, he takes on the responsibility, saying that if everyone tries to escape together, they will end up dead. He screams desperately for Hiro not to attack, but he moves forward courageously against the Minotaur, yelling not to be underestimated. Hiro thrusts his sword into the creature's chest. The strike isn't good enough, and Hiro is violently thrown to the ground. Hiro is wounded and lying before the Minotaur, while Yi desperately shouts for everyone to flee. In shock and already out of strength, Hiro looks up. The scene cuts to the real world, where an advertisement on a cell phone announces the recruitment of new players, suggesting that more people are being called to this dangerous reality. Hiro mentally says goodbye to Yui and Anya, apologizing for involving them in something so absurd. He regrets being selfish by forcing them to be part of his decision. Then he shows resolve to face the creature alone, saying he wants them to remember that moment. Facing the Minotaur head-on, Hiro faces the Minotaur, offering sincere apologies. He seems to accept his fate in a very brave manner. Suddenly, something unexpected happens. A distortion arises and envelopes Hero, the Minotaur, and another mysterious character, pulling the three of them into the center of a vortex. The MC appears suddenly and attacks the Minotaur with full force, landing a direct blow to the creature's chest, creating a spiral impact at the location struck. The Minotaur screams in pain, while Hero watches the scene in shock. The MC finishes the Minotaur with a devastating blow to the chest. Hero, and Yui are in shock at the scene. Shortly afterward, the MC approaches with a carefree smile and asks if everyone is okay, explaining that he heard the screams and ran over. After defeating the Minotaur with a single strike, the protagonist receives thanks and praise from the others. They're impressed by his strength and ask his current level. He begins to calculate, even mentioning the enemy he just defeated. The protagonist answers with a calm smile that his level is 10,000, completely surprising the others with the absurd revelation. Everyone is utterly shocked when they see on the screen the name Sakura Makoto, accompanied by an absurd level 10,000. Their reaction is one of pure astonishment and disbelief at that surreal number. Makoto officially shows it through his status screen. Level 10,000. The others are completely stunned as they confirm that he has reached this absurd number. Thanks to the 1,000 times more experience ability combined with the infinite level capacity, he was able to surpass any normal evolution limit. Makoto excitedly boasts about his level, as one should. But Hiro seriously reprimands him. He explains that revealing this kind of information could put Makoto at risk, as the whole world, not just the Japanese government, could try to control or use him. If that happens, he would lose his freedom. Hiro reassures Makoto with good humor, telling him to pretend nothing was heard and assuring that the kids didn't hear anything. He acknowledges that Makoto is not a bad person. Quite the opposite, he's their savior. Embarrassed, Makoto promises to be more careful. Ye appears excited and surprises the group, asking if Makoto heard everything. She praises his strength and speculates that he is aiming for one of the big challenges, an important dungeon. Makoto, confused, doesn't understand the surprise and responds simply, leaving the others even more intrigued. Ye reveals that the government launched a national challenge. Whoever defeats the boss of the Red Shadow Dungeon in Okinawa at the deepest floor will receive a bonus of 30 million. Makoto reacts with surprise upon hearing the amount. With a bright look and full of enthusiasm, he repeats several times how interesting that is. The idea of such an important dungeon that the government is offering a reward makes him even more curious and excited. The others watch his reaction, surprised by his enthusiasm. Makoto thanks them for the information and says he will need to leave quickly. However, when mentioning that he would arrive on Monday if he left that day, Yui corrects him. The next day is still Saturday. She then realizes that Makoto has been in the dungeon for a whole week. Embarrassed, he confirms that since leaving home, he hasn't left the place and comments that it would be quite complicated if this story spread. Makoto says goodbye, thanking them for the information and saying that since everything is resolved, he doesn't need to be invited to a meal. He then runs down the dungeon corridor, leaving the group behind. As the others watch his departure, Hiro apologizes to the girls for causing panic earlier. Hiro thinks about giving up because he no longer feels capable of protecting the group as he did before, saying that he's too old. But Ye interrupts him firmly, reminding him that he was the one who reignited the group's spirit. She emphasizes that the small failure doesn't matter and that from now on they will become the strongest united as an unbeatable team. Hiro is moved by the support from his companions. He declares with strength that they will try. Everyone responds with enthusiasm, promises, and jokes reinforcing the group's bonds. The scene ends with a sense of unity and hope in the snow, symbolizing a new beginning for the team. Makoto arrives in Okinawa feeling the intense cold of winter, something that surprises him. As he watches the snow-covered city, he comments on the weather and reflects on the 8 months since the appearance of the dungeons. During this time, various structures and modes aimed at players have been created. Makoto arrives at the Aomori Branch Dungeon Center. The place operates 24 hours a day, allowing players to buy or sell items at any time. Makoto begins unloading numerous items onto the dungeon's center counter, leaving the attendant stunned. The employee is speechless upon seeing the absurd amount of objects being pulled from such a small bag. She comments that the volume of items doesn't make sense for the size of the backpack, finding it unbelievable. Makoto explains that his backpack is a magic bag, a magical item that stores anything, regardless of size or quantity. He mentions that it was obtained as a drop from a monster called Adam and Tight. The employee is impressed and quickly associates the name with the image of a giant turtle, assuming that Makoto defeated an incredibly powerful creature. He's surprised by the reaction, only responds with a ha indicating that the situation is going beyond what he expected. Makoto walks through the dungeon center and begins to be approached by several people wanting to form teams or asking for evaluations. He notices, surprised, that there's a dungeon right in the middle of a location. An employee explains that in fact the store was built around the dungeon, something he only realizes at that moment. The attendant mentions that the dungeon there is of low rank, but no one has managed to defeat the boss so far. Noticing Makoto's interest, she tries to encourage him, but he shifts focus and asks how long it takes to evaluate an item. Upon hearing it takes about 10 minutes, he decides to try doing it using RTA, surprising her with his confident initiative. Two adventurers comment on the rumors of the U-rank dungeon, saying that it was scary, but didn't seem like much, thinking the boss had probably been defeated long ago. Meanwhile, Makoto quickly descends to the 5th floor, the deepest part of the fated prison dungeon. Determined to investigate on his own, Makoto realizes that the dungeon boss's presence is still active. Feeling the air grow heavier and colder, he explores the floor until he identifies the creature, the Slime King, a monster of unknown level. The Slime King notices Makoto's presence and tries to flee at high speed. Makoto reacts quickly and chases after him, jumping between the dungeon structures to keep him in sight. Makoto realizes that despite the Slime King being low rank, no one has managed to defeat him so far. He notices that surprisingly the slime is even faster than him despite being level 10,000. Given this, he decides to use a special ability to handle the situation. Makoto activates his ice magic at level 10 and freezes the entire environment in an instant, including the Slime King. The freezing explosion spreads forcefully, completely immobilizing the enemy, who reacts with surprise at being frozen so quickly. Makoto finishes the Slime King with a direct attack to the frozen core. The boss explodes into ice fragments, and a rare item is left behind. His level jumps by 9,900, which I feel is a number we're not paying the needed attention to. Makoto opens his status window and is shocked. His level has risen to 19,900. He realizes that the reward for the victory was even greater than he thought. The Slime King, despite being just a low-rank boss, gave an absurd amount of experience precisely because he was so hard to hit. Makoto decides to test his new skill, Flying Cloud Magic, level 1. As soon as he activates it, he starts floating in the air, surprised by the effect. Excited, he realizes he is indeed flying, and the skill seems to work perfectly on the first try. Makoto realizes that his new flying ability is still at level 1, so he can only float slightly. Frustrated, he abandons the idea of flying to Okinawa alone and decides to stick with the original plan, traveling by plane. 2 days later, Makoto arrives in Okinawa province. He is confronted by the huge movement around the entrance to the Red Shadow Dungeon. Rank H. Surprised by the structure and the number of people, he observes the place where his next challenge will take place. Makoto overhears disheartened conversations from other adventurers about the Rank H dungeon, considered extremely dangerous. Others complain about the powerful monster at the start, saying that the 30 million reward proves the risk. While most think of giving up, Makoto walks confidently toward the entrance. One of the adventurers calls him, curious about his determined attitude. An experienced adventurer warns Makoto, saying that even though he is level 66, he barely managed to escape the dungeon alive. He advises Makoto to give up, thinking the young man is only seduced by the 30 million reward. Makoto listens calmly without revealing his level. While a helicopter approaches, and he seems unconcerned, casually thinking about the situation. Makoto watches in surprise as the helicopter lands near the dungeon entrance, impressed to see it so close for the first time. Soon after, an imposing figure appears. A stylish and determined girl escorted by 3 suited agents, making it clear that something serious is about to happen. The girl with an air of authority shouts for Makoto to move out of the way immediately. Surprised and slightly intimidated, he stands still, thinking that this is the first time he's seen a real lady up close. Makoto tries to calm the situation by saying she's just a kid too, even though they are the same age. The girl gets angry and proudly introduces herself as Maria Fongold, stating that she's not a kid. Meanwhile, Makoto notices that the man who is there quietly disappears. Maria confidently asserts that she is level 99 and that this type of dungeon is nothing for her. Makoto and the others are surprised, but they notice that despite this, she still seems very small. When Makoto comments on this out loud by accident, she gets annoyed, stating that she's 12 years old. Makoto directly responds, 12 is still a kid. Maria gets irritated by Makoto's comment and accuses him of being rude. When he tries to explain himself, Maria's bodyguard interrupts and declares that due to her Russian Yuta bloodline heritage, Maria is already considered an adult at the age of 12. Because of this, she demands respect and reinforces the idea firmly, leaving Makoto visibly speechless. Maria decides to enter the dungeon alone, asking her bodyguard and the others to wait outside. Makoto thinks this is strange, as someone at level 99 would go in alone, but he holds back his doubts and simply apologizes. The bodyguard watches him in silence, intrigued by his reaction. Makoto enters the Red Shadow dungeon and is impressed by the place, finding the interior well organized for a rank H dungeon. While observing the body of a defeated monster, he hears a scream coming from a corridor further ahead and immediately follows the sound, alert to what might be happening. Makoto is shocked to see Maria, the girl who claimed to be level 99, running desperately while being pursued by a giant monstrous boar. She screams for help, clearly in panic. Confused and disbelieving, Makoto watches the scene and questions if this is really the same level 99 child who had been bragging moments earlier. Maria continues fleeing in panic, shouting for help while the monstrous boar chases her closely. Makoto, already prepared, extends his arm with magic, ready to be cast, and surprised by the scene, asks what she's doing. He then firmly warns her to duck quickly while magical energy gathers around his hand. Maria watches in surprise as Makoto's magic hits the giant boar with devastating force. The explosion sends debris flying and the monster is completely smashed against the wall. On the ground, Maria stares in shock at what just happened while Makoto calmly approaches after the precise attack. Maria is still in shock, staring at Makoto with a surprised and speechless look. Maria reacts angrily and embarrassed, saying that she didn't ask for help and accusing Makoto of lying. He, not understanding, simply observes. She proudly introduces herself, but Makoto confronts her, reminding her that she's level 99 and questioning why she fled. Instead of fighting, she tries to justify that there was no other choice. Maria admits that she has never defeated a monster that was still moving, leaving Makoto surprised. She explains that the others fought until nearly dying and she just finished them off to gain the experience. He questions why she boasts about that, but she remains proud. When Makoto decides to leave, she unexpectedly grabs him by the face, catching him off guard. Maria tries to convince Makoto to let her join the group, claiming she'll grant special permission. He ignores her, points to the exit, and says that she should ask the security guards for help. Maria insists that she won't leave and wants to complete the dungeon. Makoto, irritated, asks why she ran earlier, even after speaking so determinedly. The situation turns into a confusion between pride and stubbornness. Maria admits she's afraid and begs Makoto to face the monsters for her. Even without courage, she grabs him, saying she won't let him go until he agrees. With that, she proposes an alliance. Makoto, confused by her words and actions, finally gives in, saying, "I understand. Let go." Maria becomes excited, thinking that Makoto has accepted the partnership, but he tries to talk before agreeing. When he says that helping a child doesn't bring any benefit, Maria gets offended and retorts, asking if he really believes there's no advantage in teaming up with her. Makoto then asks why she is so determined to finish the dungeon, suspecting there's more to it than just the money reward. Maria reveals that her real goal is to prove her maturity to her parents who live far away. She's not after money or experience points. What she really wants is the recognition of being the one who completed the Red Shadow dungeon. Makoto is surprised by this declaration. Makoto thinks about Maria's request and concludes that being honored and becoming the center of attention would be inconvenient. As someone who values freedom and peace, he decides to let Maria take all the credit. With that, he agrees to the partnership on the condition that she claims she completed the dungeon alone. Makoto agrees to team up with Maria, and the two shake hands excitedly. She proudly tells him to feel honored to be on the same team. Makoto, without arguing, accepts, saying he knows that, but emphasizes that this partnership is only for this dungeon. On the second floor of the Red Shadow dungeon, they encounter a level 60 demon boar. Maria, determined, promises that this time it will work. Makoto, silent, just watches as she tries to act confidently. But when she asks if he at least carries a weapon, he keeps walking silently, hands empty. Makoto hands Maria a sword and tells her that although it seems frightening at first, she's level 99, so it should be fine. With determination, she grabs the weapon and charges forward to face the demon boar heathen, staring at it with courage as the monster charges toward her. Maria charges full force and lands a direct hit on the demon boar, knocking it down on her own. Soon after, she celebrates excitedly, saying it's the first time she has defeated a monster by herself. Makoto confirms that everything is fine now. Excited, Maria climbs the stairs, saying that level 99 isn't just for show and that she'll be the one to complete the dungeon. Makoto follows calmly, thinking everything is probably fine. As they ascend to the third floor of the dungeon, Makoto curiously asks about Maria's abilities since he's never seen her use any. She becomes excited, striking a pose and saying she'll tell him everything. Maria, excited, says she has learned 4 super strong abilities. Instead of explaining, she prefers to demonstrate and begins to activate one, asking Makoto to pay attention while she prepares to show the first of her powers. Maria confidently activates the Vacuum Magic Level 5 ability, firing a magical beam that tears through the wall ahead. Makoto watches in surprise at the power of the attack. But soon, the scene cuts to both of them staring confusedly at the destroyed wall, as if the result wasn't exactly what they expected. Makoto comments in surprise that it's the first time he's seen vacuum blade magic. Maria admits that her control is still poor and that she always ends up hitting the wall unintentionally. She then reveals her second ability, level 10 healing magic, capable of healing any wound instantly. While Makoto reacts with amazement, Maria prepares to show her third ability, which she says is rare. Maria reveals her third ability, level 1 revival magic, which allows her to resurrect the dead. Makoto is surprised and wonders if she's the only one in the world with this power. Comparing the ability to a game bug, Maria then prepares to show her fourth and final skill, a super rare skill that grants 10 times more experience for defeating monsters. She proudly asks if Makoto has ever heard of something like that. He understands why she's at level 99, but seems unimpressed with her over-the-top excitement. Makoto realizes that he never thought much about his own abilities and reflects that there may be people with the infinite level-up ability. When Maria directly asks what his skills are, he hides the truth and says he has nothing. Internally, he feels it's unnecessary to talk about his secret 1x experience skill and decides to keep it a secret to avoid problems. Maria, on the other hand, begins to suspect and gets irritated with his vague response. Maria is completely surprised when she discovers that Makoto masters several level 10 magic skills: fire, ice, lightning, and even one unknown skill, the flying cloud magic. She excitedly praises him, saying he's very strong. Meanwhile, Makoto thanks her shyly. Maria, full of confidence, declares that she's the strongest after Makoto and tries to confirm this with him. Even without a direct response, she assumes that he is also level 99 and happily celebrates the idea of them forming a powerful duo. Makoto, on the other hand, just thinks about how optimistic she is, saying nothing to discourage her. Maria enthusiastically declares that they are the strongest team and without hesitation self-proclaims herself as the team leader. Makoto once again just observes in silence without contesting, letting Maria go on with her excitement. Makoto laughs lightly, saying it's true, while Maria watches surprised at this more relaxed side of him. Although he initially stated that the partnership is only for mutual benefit, he admits to himself that trying to get close to someone like her isn't so bad. Maria, impressed, thinks it's rare to see Makoto smile like this. Makoto recalls the past, revealing that he has allied with others before, but it was apparently disappointing, something he considers nothing interesting. Meanwhile, on the 6th floor of the Red Shadow dungeon, Maria screams in panic. Maria screams in horror as zombies approach and runs toward Makoto, calling for help several times. Makoto calm protects her with a powerful strike that sends the enemies flying. In the end, Maria tries to hide her fear with a forced smile, saying that rank H isn't anything special, not even him. An adventurer is surprised by a monstrous creature and tries to defend himself in vain, shouting for help. Makoto watches the scene calmly while Maria, desperate, runs toward the battlefield, saying that she will save him. After the rescue, the adventurer sincerely thanks Makoto for saving him and restoring his magic. Maria watches in silence while Makoto, relaxed, responds that it was no problem. He then jokes with the man, saying, "Look who's talking," keeping a light tone despite the situation. The adventurer, after thanking him, says that he's in a hurry and starts leaving. Maria questions him, surprised, as he was heading in the direction they came from. The man responds embarrassed that he's going back. Makoto suspects the reason might be that someone has already completed the dungeon, but the adventurer quickly denies it, saying that this would be impossible. As they walk through a corridor full of adventurers, a voice comments that the two must be very strong. However, it warns that strength alone isn't enough to complete that dungeon. Makoto's expression changes upon hearing this. Makoto and Maria arrive at the 7th floor of the Red Shadow dungeon and are confronted by a huge crowd of adventurers gathered, all apparently stuck or unable to advance. Makoto and Maria discover that the lake on the 7th floor is entirely made of poison. A girl warns that the liquid paralyzes the body slowly until it prevents any movement. She comments that an adventurer jumped into the lake an hour ago without thinking and was only saved thanks to the intervention of a woman with glasses. Makoto reveals that he cannot use purification magic, which surprises the others as everyone there is expecting a user of that magic to cross the poisonous lake. Maria panics, not knowing what to do, but a woman intervenes, saying that there's another way to cross without needing that magic. Makoto picks Maria up in his arms without warning, leaving her completely embarrassed and unsure of what to do. Ignoring her confusion, he simply tells her to hold on tight. He then uses a high-speed ability to cross the poisonous lake in a single leap, leaving everyone stunned. Maria panics upon seeing that Makoto intends to cross the poisonous lake with a jump, thinking it's impossible. While she screams worriedly, he calmly activates Flying Cloud Magic Level 1 and begins to fly over the water with her in his arms, leaving her completely speechless. Makoto crosses the lake, flying with Maria in his arms, leaving everyone in shock. She, embarrassed and angry, tells him to let go of her and complains about being touched, even though he was just trying to save her. After landing, Maria is shaken, feeling embarrassed for being carried like that in front of so many people, especially by someone who isn't even her boyfriend. She remembers the tight hug and thinks he should take responsibility for that. Meanwhile, Makoto acts normally and comments that the next stop is the 8th floor. Unaware of how much the situation affected Maria, who watches him with her face completely flushed, Makoto finds the change in Maria's behavior strange and asks what happened, reminding her that they need to move forward as much as possible today. She, still confused by her own feelings, reassures herself that she needs to tell her parents about her achievement. Then she suddenly becomes excited, stares at Makoto, and enthusiastically says that as soon as they finish the dungeon, she will tell everything to her father and mother, leaving Makoto confused about the sudden excitement. Makoto masters the flying cloud magic technique while advancing through the 13th floor of the Red Shadow Dungeon. Having already spent 10 hours exploring, he combines flying cloud magic level 2 with fire magic level 10, flying over the enemies and launching powerful fire attacks. Maria watches in awe and compliments him, saying that this is exactly what one would expect from Makoto-sama. Makoto eliminates a monster with a direct attack while protecting Maria. Still surprised, she confirms that she's fine, but questions why so many monsters are suddenly appearing. Maria defends herself by saying that buttons are meant to be pressed, even though she clearly pressed a suspicious one. Makoto comments that it did indeed seem strange. As they discuss resting, Maria insists that she still has energy. Suddenly, Makoto sets up a tent, surprising Maria with his sudden action. Makoto sets up a full camp with towels, food, and clothes, leaving Maria impressed. He says he'll keep watch while she can rest. Maria is surprised by the practicality and magic of his bag and gets excited, saying that she wants one, too. She thanks him enthusiastically, admiring Makoto's speed and organization. Maria makes Makoto promise something with a pinky swear and becomes excited when she hears his confirmation. She happily enters the tent to rest, while Makoto rests outside the tent. The girl thanks him sincerely, praising his level 10 fire magic, saying it saved her several times. She comments that his preparation was thorough and compares his power to that of a great warrior, leaving Makoto surprised by the sudden gratitude. Makoto asks how Maria knows the group Senate Nagurin, and she responds casually saying they're the most famous team among the youth right now due to their strength and appearance. Makoto is surprised while images of the group are prominently shown in the media. Maria mentions that she's met the leader of the team, Kamishiro, and says he's a really nice person and that she would like to see him again. She reveals that she had an adventure with him in the past, but didn't expect the team to be so famous. Makoto, surprised by Maria's words, tries to change the subject, saying she's just dreaming. She in turn jokes that he must be jealous. This scene takes place 7 months ago, showing a flashback of the protagonist with several others, including some people who seem important to the story. The protagonist reflects that since their meeting with them, the sense of freedom inside him has been shaken. About 7 months back, they were at the S-rank Shallow Serene dungeon. Kamishiro asked Makoto. They start to call him Sakura, but will stick to Makoto, asking him if he'd really been hanging out in the dungeon since leaving home, and suggested maybe Makoto should act a bit more grown up. Makoto was puzzled and looked at Kamishiro, who then wondered if he'd said something wrong. Nagasawa, standing nearby, told Kamishiro he should just get used to it. Makoto gave Kamishiro a look of sympathy. Out of nowhere, Kaido jumped on Makoto from behind, teasing that getting kicked out of school, running away, and diving into a dungeon must mean Makoto's life was pretty wild. Kamishiro watched them and said it seemed like the two idiots actually got along pretty well. Makoto was just baffled by everyone's behavior. While he was lost in thought, Mizukawa tried to catch his attention, and when he heard her, he turned around. Mizukawa got nervous and hid behind Nagasawa. She whispered something to Nagasawa, who then told Makoto Mizukawa wanted to know if he played solo. Makoto didn't get what a solo player was, so Nagasawa basically told him not to bother if he didn't know. She went on to explain there were 2 ways people played in dungeons: solo or in teams. It was up to each player to choose, and teams didn't always have to be officially registered. Nagasawa was about to say their team's name, but Makoto accidentally stepped on something, setting off a bunch of monsters. He quickly apologized. Tense, but they took down the zombies in no time. Kamishiro then said their team was called Sankaniguran. Makoto got curious about the name's meaning. Kamishiro claimed it came from the first letters of their names and that he thought it was a cool idea he came up with. Nagasawa jumped in saying it wasn't a big deal, and she and Mizukawa actually came up with the name, accusing Kamishiro of lying. Kamishiro snapped back, asking why she brought it up if it wasn't important. Nagasawa said she was just annoyed. Meanwhile, Makoto wondered why he wasn't expected to do anything strong. Suddenly, a monster bird swooped in, but Makoto quickly kicked it down. Then, Kamishiro and the others rushed over, asking if he was all right. Kamishiro told Mizukawa to use healing magic, which she did while Makoto was left confused about what was going on. Without warning, Makoto passed out, and when he came to, he was lying under a blanket. Kamishiro asked how he was feeling. Shocked, Makoto said he thought he just fainted. Kamishiro explained that it was poison from a creature called the poison bird, which had a venomous gland in its head. Makoto was confused about the poison part. Kamishiro went on to say, the poison seeps in through the wound, slowly damaging the body until it eventually kills. Makoto asked how he was still alive, puzzled. Kamishiro said Mizukawa had used detox magic to clear out all the poison. Kaido from behind added that while Makoto was out cold, he used his skill to bring him down to the 14th floor and told Makoto to thank him. Makoto gave Kaido a quick thanks. Kamashi reminded Makoto not to forget to thank Mizukawa, too. Then Makoto asked what kind of magic jobs would exist if detox and healing magic were a thing. Kaido wanted to know what skills Makoto had and asked him to show off. When he saw, Kaido was shocked. Fire magic, ice magic, and even lightning. Plus, Makoto's fire magic level was higher than his own. Kaido got even more surprised when he saw Makoto was level 71. Without a word, he started heading off somewhere. Kamishiro asked where he was going. Kaido shouted back that he wasn't going to lose and needed to level up. Kamishiro told him to keep it down since people were sleeping. Kaido apologized. Makoto thought Kaido was a weird guy. Kamishiro asked who he meant. Makoto said both of them. Kamishiro checked Makoto's stats too and noticed they still had about 2 hours before their shift changed, so he suggested chatting for a bit. After talking for a while, Makoto asked if they were all in the sword club at Ira's school and wondered why they were so good. Kamishiro thought about how to explain that being players wasn't just a hobby. It involved training, mental prep, and earning money, making it pretty interesting. Exploring with friends was fun for them. Makoto asked if that was really true. Kamishiro said he wasn't sure when he'd stop finding people interesting, especially since he enjoyed talking to Makoto. He mentioned Kaido seemed more interested than usual, too. Makoto wasn't quite sure yet, so Kamishiro asked if he didn't find it interesting. Makoto thought back on the fun times they had together, but still wasn't decided. Later, as they moved toward the next floor, Makoto thanked Mizukawa. She was surprised and acted a bit awkward, like she was double-checking if he really meant it. Makoto thanked her again for helping him, and she blushed, saying she hadn't done anything special. Makoto insisted she did, saying if it wasn't for her, he'd be dead. Mizukawa said she didn't have useful skills like the others, so helping was all she could do. Makoto told her no one should think like that. Saving a life is a big deal. He thanked her again. She got even more embarrassed, but accepted his thanks. Nagasawa was happy to see the exchange, but Kaido jumped in, claiming he deserved credit for saving Makoto, too. Nagasawa told him to shut up angrily. As they neared the stairs down to the next floor, Makoto sensed something and told Kamishiro. Kamishiro agreed, noticing the air had turned really cold, a sure sign the floor boss was waiting on the 15th floor. When Nagasawa suggested they settle it with rock, paper, scissors, Kaido jumped right in. Makoto, curious, asked Mizukawa what that was about, but she just nervously said she didn't know. Nagasawa explained that since beating the boss gave loads of experience, they'd usually decide who gets the final hit by playing rock, paper, scissors. Kaido quickly pointed out that Makoto couldn't join because he was already level 71 and not part of their team. Nagasawa asked Makoto to confirm if that was true. Mizukawa surprised everyone by saying Makoto was their friend, so it wouldn't be right to leave him out. Kaido felt the pressure and glanced at the others who were smiling in agreement. So he gave in and let Makoto play just because they were friends. They all played rock, paper, scissors to decide. The scene moved to the 15th floor, where Kamishiro warned Kaido not to go alone since it was so dark. As they searched for the boss, it suddenly attacked Mizukawa. Makoto jumped in to take the hit, shocking everyone. He yelled for them to stay back and quickly asked if the attack was poisonous. Kaido showed up and punched the monster. Makoto hesitated, surprised. Kaido stepped in. Kaido told him to stand back and watch. He'd handle the boss. Mizukawa started healing Kaido while Kamishiro checked on Makoto. Makoto noticed something weird. After the boss hit him, His health dropped halfway, probably because of a special effect. He also pointed out Kaido was only level 24. Suddenly, Nagasawa spotted something and shouted Kaido's name. Kamishiro looked over and saw Kaido was struggling. The boss called Two-Tail had bitten him twice, and his health dropped by 75%. Kamishiro and Nagasawa rushed to help and started fighting the boss while Mizukawa healed Kaido. Kaido was mad at himself for messing up and told Mizukawa to run since the boss would keep attacking him. Just as the boss lunged at Mizukawa and Kaido, no one could stop it. But Makoto used lightning magic to take down the boss, leveling up by 20 levels. Everyone was stunned, but even more so when Kaido got up and walked toward Makoto. Makoto asked if he was okay, but out of nowhere, Kaido punched him. The others were shocked, and Nagasawa asked why. Kaido snapped at her to be quiet and demanded to know why Makoto had stolen his kill. Makoto was shocked and asked how Kaido could say that now. Kaido ignored him and walked ahead. Nagasawa wondered what was wrong with Kaido acting like that, even after Makoto saved him. Kamishiro said sorry to Makoto too, admitting he didn't expect Kaido to act like that. Makoto just shrugged, saying he kind of saw it coming. Then he stood up, everyone, and said he'd head back alone. They tried to stop him, but Makoto decided from now on he wouldn't tag along with anyone anymore. Just then, he kept hearing someone calling his name. The scene jumped back to the present. Makoto woke up, and it turned out that whole thing was just a dream from his past. Maria asked him how he could fall asleep while on guard duty. Makoto noticed Maria had changed clothes and told her the new outfit looked great on her. Maria gave him an annoyed look, thinking his comment was irritating. Makoto asked where the clothes came from since he didn't remember giving her anything new. Maria said she had just altered the clothes he'd already given her. Then Makoto turned and saw the tent was packed up neatly like before. He wondered how something he found too complicated to set up was now packed away so easily by Maria. He praised her for being great at handling chores. Maria smiled and said it was nice to hear that, but called it funny to say she was unexpectedly good at it. After that, they moved through the dungeon floors steadily, clearing them one by one. Now on the 19th floor, they somehow got lost. Makoto smiled and said it was the first time he'd seen a dungeon so maze-like. Maria asked why he was laughing. Makoto explained that if you keep one hand on a wall in a maze and follow it, you'll eventually find your way out. Maria was amazed and asked if that really worked and why. Suddenly, Maria heard some voices and told Makoto she thought someone was talking nearby. Makoto agreed, saying it felt like a scene straight out of a horror movie. Maria got scared and told him not to say things like that because it was too creepy. Makoto apologized for the comment. Just then, Nagasawa and the others showed up. Nagasawa was happy to see Makoto and greeted him warmly, saying it had been a long time since they last met. Back then, Maria was watching a show about the Senkan Nagaran team. Her secretary mentioned that Maria's dad really admired their skills. That got Maria fired up to be like them and work hard to become a top player herself. When Makoto showed up, everyone was surprised. Kamishiro thought it was just a coincidence. Nagasawa got curious about the kid with Makoto and teased if she might be his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Maria got super excited, shaking Makoto and shouting that this was the Senkan Nagaran team she saw on TV. Makoto told her to chill since he already knew. Maria then started talking about the team. Kaido had some unique powers and used strong buffs to beat enemies like a true fighter. Nagasawa fought with amazing speed and beautiful kendo moves, both powerful and graceful. Mizukawa was praised for her versatile skills, always backing up the team and helping them win. When it came to Kamishiro, Maria admitted she didn't know much about him. Kamishiro asked who she was. Maria blushed, stepped back, and hugged Makoto, feeling awkward after their eyes met. Makoto apologized for Maria, explaining she was a huge fan of all of them. Nagasawa walked over and said Maria was cute, then asked her name. Maria froze, shocked that Nagasawa called her cute. Then, Mizukawa recognized Maria and asked if she was the professional model from a popular magazine. Makoto was surprised to hear that. Maria nodded and said she was honored Mizukawa knew her. Now it made sense why Maria had asked Makoto why teaming up with her wouldn't help. Kamashi wondered what a model like Maria had to do with Makoto. Makoto explained they met at the dungeon entrance and teamed up temporarily to help her out. Hearing this, Nagasawa suggested they team up again. Kaido and Makoto were both shocked by that idea. Maria was thrilled and asked Nagasawa to make sure she really meant it. Makoto decided to form the team for Maria's sake since he had promised her. Still remembering Kaido's last punch, Makoto hoped everyone would back them up. Kaido didn't seem to care and told them to do whatever they wanted. Nagasawa was happy and invited Maria to join. As they moved on, Makoto noticed everyone was kind of famous. Maria as a model and the others as skilled players. He felt relieved that he wouldn't get too much attention. Later, Nagasawa whispered something to Kamashiro. Then, Kamashiro went over to Maria and offered his hand. She happily shook it and smiled. Nagasawa was glad to see them getting along, but then a monster showed up. Makoto took it down with a single punch. Kaido stayed mad through dinner. During the meal, Mizukawa's hand accidentally touched Makoto's, which embarrassed her and made Makoto nervous, too. Everyone laughed, and they enjoyed a fun moment together. The scene then jumped ahead to the 20th floor of the Red Shadow dungeon. Seeing the floor boss, Kaido warned everyone not to touch it no matter what. Makoto said if Kaido's life was at risk, he'd step in to help. Kaido yelled at Makoto not to even think about it. Kamashiro told Nagasawa to get ready to support Kaido if needed and Mizukawa to prepare her healing magic. He also told Maria to stand back. With that, they began the fight against the floor boss. While Kaido was still locked in battle with the floor boss, Kamashiro turned to Makoto and apologized softly. She said she knew that if they hadn't teamed up, Makoto could have probably defeated the boss all by himself. Makoto admitted he did want to fight the boss himself and act freely, but he wasn't sure how to explain his feelings beyond that. He then started wondering aloud about the real reason behind his craving for freedom, even though he himself wasn't truly free. He told them it was strange, but also interesting to think about. Suddenly, without warning, a strange blast erupted around them, filling the entire area with thick smoke. When the smoke finally cleared, Makoto's heart sank. Everyone was lying unconscious on the ground. It was the doing of the floor boss called Nine Tails. Makoto's anger flared up fiercely. He felt like he was being forced down a path he never chose. And this cruel, undeserved loss of freedom was something he simply couldn't forgive. Outside the dungeon, Takakota Koko, the dungeon reporter, was streaming live. She told viewers that a crowd was gathering at the H-rank dungeon in Okinawa province. Some sources said her early coverage was catching the attention of young people, especially since the Senkunijin team was inside the dungeon. Without realizing she was still on air, Takakota got excited about the chance to get their autographs and maybe even interview them later. Then she snapped back to the broadcast and asked if it had been 5 days since the government announced the reward, wondering if anyone would clear the dungeon. Back inside, Makoto tried punching the Nine Tails monster, but it didn't work. Then he noticed Mizukawa sitting up looking okay. He rushed to her, asking if she was all right. Mizukawa, still shocked, asked what had happened, realizing everyone else had been defeated. It was both painful and shocking to her, explaining that the others were badly hurt because of the Nine Tails explosion. But Mizukawa might have avoided the worst by staying behind him. Makoto put a hand on her shoulder. He asked her to use her healing magic since she was the only one who could help. As the Nine Tails attacked from behind, Makoto tried ice magic, but it melted instantly. He told Mizukawa to look after everyone while he got ready to fight. Makoto then used fire magic, but the monster blocked it easily. He thought maybe physical ice and fire attacks weren't working because the Nine Tails body was made of fire. Then he floated up using cloud magic and launched a lightning attack as a last shot. The monster defended itself and pushed the lightning back at him. That moment made Makoto remember his school days, a time when he felt powerless. He recalled getting flowers stuffed in his shoes and angrily demanding who did it. Makotoba mocked him, saying he wouldn't have the courage to face life if he were in Makoto's place. Furious, Makoto threw his bag at Makotoba's face which led to his group attacking him. Makoto said he couldn't fight back then, but if he had, maybe his classmates and teachers would have stood by him and he might still be in school. Still, he decided not to dwell on those painful memories because now he had something worth protecting. Back in the present, Makoto decided that if one move wasn't enough, he'd keep fighting with everything he had. Suddenly, Maria called out to him, and he was glad to see her. She told him not to be tense because he was the strongest. Encouraged, Makoto unleashed a series of lightning attacks on the Nine Tails, teasing the monster that it was out of its league. He wondered if this time could be different from when he felt weak before, determined to protect what mattered most. In the end, the Nine Tails was defeated and Makoto leveled up by 417 levels. After Makoto's win, Maria started cheering loudly, and one by one, everyone else began to recover. Makoto felt relieved knowing everyone was safe. Kamishiro gave credit to Makoto, saying none of this would have been possible without him. Mizukawa also praised how strong he was, and Maria kept going on about his power. Then Kaido called out to Makoto, saying he wouldn't lose next time and even apologized for their last fight. Mizukawa asked Kaido to speak up, but he said if they had energy to shout, they should use it to get better and come back. Mizukawa pointed out that Kaido was actually louder than usual. Kamishiro announced they had finally cleared the H-level dungeon. When they all came out, everyone cheered, shouting that the Senkan Nagrin team was back. Makoto showed them something, and Kamishiro asked what it was. Makoto said it was a drop from the Nine Tails, proof they'd won, and offered it as a keepsake. In return, Makoto asked them to tell the world the 5 of them had finished the dungeon, but to leave him out. Kamishiro wondered how they'd agree to that. Makoto suggested they should since he didn't want to attract too much attention. So Kamishiro declared the H-level dungeon conquered by the Senkan Noguren team with Maria's help. Everyone praised them and cheered for Maria, admiring her for being both cute and powerful. Kamishiro asked Makoto one more time if he was sure about this. Makoto said yes and told them it was time to go home. They were surprised and asked why so soon. Mizukawa begged him to stay a bit longer, but Makoto smiled and said maybe next time. She said she'd remember this. Kamishiro told Makoto their doors would always be open, not just as teammates, but as friends. Makoto then headed home, frequently glancing at his hands. He was thinking it wasn't just about levels. He could get stronger by using his skills better. He realized he'd never tried combining skills to make new combos or strategies, which he found interesting. Suddenly, Maria called from behind. When Makoto turned, he saw her running toward him. He asked what was up. Surprised, Maria said they needed to go tell his parents about their victory. Makoto was puzzled and asked why they both had to go. He thought one person would be enough. Maria looked a bit sad and asked how he could say that, insisting they should both go together. He repeated that he thought just one person was fine. Without warning, Maria jumped and hugged him tightly. Makoto, still confused, asked why she was hugging him so hard. Maria smiled and said they'd been through so much together, adventuring, talking, eating, fighting, and there was still so much she didn't know about him. She told him she'd always been happy growing up surrounded by her parents' love, but she knew the world outside had many more amazing things. She believed that if anyone could understand that, it was Makoto and everyone would agree. So, she said he shouldn't worry and they should go tell his parents together. Makoto, still confused, asked what she meant. Then, thinking about his past, he told Maria she was really amazing. He admitted that about 8 months ago, he'd fought with his parents and hadn't gone back home since. But he was still their son, and he knew he needed to apologize properly. Maria paused for a moment and said she'd also be upset if Makoto didn't care about his parents. Maria then said that once Makoto became a true gentleman worthy of her, they'd meet again. Makoto smiled, said goodbye, and agreed they would see each other again. Maria bragged that they were the strongest team after all. Makoto laughed, shook her hand, and agreed. The scene shifted to Moroka province at Makoto's house. He had already told his mom he was coming. So when he opened the door, she ran to him, hugged him tight, and started crying. His mom welcomed him warmly, but called him a big idiot. Makoto went inside and greeted his dad, who seemed hesitant to say welcome. Seeing this, Makoto felt tears welling up. Just like that, his 8 months of loneliness came to an end. But his life as a player went on. He talked with his parents, showing them he was serious about becoming a full-time player. Later, he wondered where to go next and decided that after finishing Rank H, it was time to aim for Rank G. Makoto told his parents he was leaving, but as soon as he opened the door, Maria was standing there about to ring the bell. She greeted him with a cheerful good morning, excited for their date. Makoto felt nervous and quickly shut the door. Maria got mad at his reaction. Makoto finally stepped outside and noticed that Nagasawa and Mizukawa had come along with Maria. Both greeted him with a cheerful good morning and reminded him of his earlier promise. Maybe next time in Okinawa. They pointed out that next time had finally come. Nagasawa added that Maria had told them she would be heading back home next week. So this outing was also their chance to say goodbye to her. Mizukawa awkwardly apologized for crashing the moment. Makoto replied that he was planning to go on a dungeon run. Nagasawa laughed and asked why that was all he ever cared about, urging him to save some time for youth and fun. Makoto calmly responded that he believed dungeon exploring was part of youth. Nagasawa got a little frustrated, wondering what was wrong with Makoto's priorities. Then Maria chipped in and asked if they could all go to the dungeon after their date. Makoto thought for a moment and finally agreed to join them. Upon hearing this, the group started celebrating. Makoto then asked Maria how she had gotten his address. Maria answered with a mysterious smile, saying there were some things he was better off not knowing. Makoto tensed up, finding her reply a little intimidating. The scene shifted to a shopping mall, where Maria pointed out that Makoto always wore old clothes, and since she was a professional model, she insisted on picking something new for him. Makoto was at a loss for words. Suddenly, he recalled something and asked Maria if she hadn't told him before that they wouldn't see each other for a while. After saying goodbye, Maria admitted she thought he might be sad. She asked him to relax and enjoy the moment. Makoto agreed. Since he was already there with them, he might as well enjoy himself. Maria picked out a t-shirt for Makoto, which made Nagasawa frown since she didn't like the choice. However, Makoto praised Maria for her pick, calling it very beautiful. The scene then moved to Yumino Aquarium. Maria ran inside excitedly, shouting how much she loved aquariums. Nagasawa called out for Maria to wait and mentioned that this aquarium was a bit smaller than the one in her hometown, but she still wanted to see the penguins. She shouted again, telling Maria to wait because she was coming too. Mizukawa laughed, commenting on how much Maria was enjoying herself. Makoto then asked Mizukawa if it had been her idea to visit the aquarium and inquired what she wanted to see. The scene changed again to inside the aquarium near the jellyfish exhibit. Makoto asked if Mizukawa liked jellyfish. She nodded enthusiastically, saying jellyfish were mysterious and mystical creatures. She also shared that some types could even be kept as pets. Mizukawa added that there was a whole jellyfish museum in the world which housed some very rare species. Suddenly, she took off running towards it, calling for Makoto and the others to come along. After leaving the museum, Makoto said he had a lot of fun. Mizukawa agreed, saying she especially enjoyed seeing the rare jellyfish, and hanging out with him made her very happy. Suddenly, Makoto remembered something and said he almost forgot he had brought a gift for her. Mizukawa was surprised and asked why. Makoto smiled and said she should keep it as a souvenir. He also mentioned he had brought something for the others as well. Mizukawa got really happy and teared up a bit, thanking Makoto and saying she'd treasure it forever. Makoto just chuckled, thinking maybe that was a little over the top, and quietly wondered if he just grabbed it by chance while checking out the Umiai Buddha t-shirt. Then Makoto asked where the other two were. Mizukawa said she hadn't seen them around. Right then, Mizukawa's phone rang. It was Nagasawa calling in a panic, telling her to come quick because only she could help. Turns out Nagasawa was scared of rides, and Maria was trying to convince her to go on one. Makoto and Mizukawa were surprised to hear about Nagasawa's and Maria's likes and dislikes. Later, the scene changed to Nagasawa talking with Makoto. She looked worn out from dealing with Maria, and Makoto was surprised that Maria and Mizukawa were actually great at riding those rides. Nagasawa then brought up splitting the loot from the Red Shadow dungeon evenly. Makoto got a bit tense since she kept pressing, but he said it was fine by him. Still, Nagasawa wasn't totally comfortable. Makoto explained that since he cleared the dungeon, it was his call, and honestly, he just wanted enough money to get by without stress. He also said he just wanted to enjoy the dungeon for fun. Then he asked if their team, Senko Nagirin, had any plans. Nagasawa said yes. They were aiming for the scary A-ranked dungeon called Horrendous Mount Dungeon, or the Last Dungeon. Hearing that, Makoto wondered if it was that mountain dungeon near Yuzori Lake in Adumori province, known to be super scary. He said he'd been there a couple of months ago, but the entrance was locked tight, and no matter how hard he hit it, nothing happened. The place felt cold and lifeless. Makoto wanted to ask more, but Nagasawa cut in, saying they shouldn't talk about dungeons while just hanging out. So now Makoto had to make up for it by buying drinks. Makoto was confused, asking why Nagasawa brought up dungeons in the first place. Still, he wanted to get the drinks. When he came back, two guys were there trying to hang out with Nagasawa. Nagasawa ran to Makoto, asking why he took so long. The two guys were shocked to find out she was waiting for her boyfriend. Nagasawa told Makoto those guys had been bothering her while he was away. Makoto asked if they were friends, but Nagasawa snapped back, asking which part of him thought that. Suddenly, one of the guys stepped forward angrily, saying he heard her calling them weirdos and demanded how she could say that. Nagasawa fired back, calling them thick-headed and mocked their weird shirts. The guy yelled they were actually famous YouTubers, the Tsuchikura brothers, and now she owed them for trash talking. They bragged they were both level 99 and warned she better apologize before they took action. Makoto got a bit annoyed inside, thinking about his own level being way higher, around 20,000. The brothers laughed again, demanding an apology or else. Lin then told Makoto and Nagasawa they should film a fight with them as a way to make up. Even after being turned down a bunch and having his favorite t-shirt mocked, Lin got lucky to meet Nagasawa from Senka Nagirin and her boyfriend. Both Makoto and Nagasawa quickly shouted that they weren't actually dating. Lin shrugged it off and said it didn't matter because if anyone got hurt, their staff could fix it fast with some level 8 healing magic. Nagasawa shot back angrily that Lin should be the one worried. Lin just laughed, saying there was no chance he'd lose. Nagasawa demanded to know why he was acting so cocky. Lin explained that when the leveling system kicked in, everyone got starting stats that show their physical power, and his were way better than most. Makoto thought that might be true since his own starting stats were low too. Lin asked them to check out the numbers, pointing out that both brothers had way higher strength. Even if Makoto and Nagasawa were at level 99, they wouldn't stand a chance. That made Nagasawa really mad, and she yelled at the brothers to stop talking and fight her instead. She called them weirdos again. Makoto tried to calm her down, saying there was no reason to fight, but Nagasawa was fed up and told him to just watch if he wanted. After that, Makoto asked Nagasawa what level she was and what weapon she used. She said level 94 with a sword. Makoto said he didn't want to fight, but was willing to take her place. Nagasawa was confused and asked why. Makoto said, how could she fight someone with better stats at level 94? Especially if she couldn't even land a hit? She agreed, but warned him if he lost, she'd kill him. Makoto smiled and said, okay, sure he wouldn't lose. Lin told his crew to get ready to record, and the fight kicked off. Lin charged at Makoto and threw a kick, but Makoto just blocked it with his hand. Lin laughed and teased him, asking if it hurt and if he could block again. When Makoto didn't react, Lin got angry and yelled, can you block this? He kept punching, but Makoto dodged every hit easily. Nagasawa was shocked by how fast Lin's punches were, and Tin bragged that nobody ever stood up after Lin's punch flurry. But Lin was frustrated since none of his attacks hit Makoto. Makoto threw a punch. The sheer wind pressure was enough to send him flying. Everyone gasped at the power. Makoto got nervous, worried he'd accidentally used all his strength. Tin shouted it was impossible Lin could lose and accused Makoto of cheating with magic. Tin cast air magic with both hands, but Makoto jumped to dodge. As he jumped, he wondered if, like healing magic, someone could use both hands to stabilize a spell. He figured he'd ask Maria about it later. Suddenly, Makoto noticed Nagasawa behind him about to get hit by the air magic. He quickly ran, grabbed her, and put her on his shoulder to protect her. Tin was stunned that both Makoto and Nagasawa dodged easily and realized he'd lost. Suddenly, a dolphin plush flew out of nowhere and smacked Tin right in the face, knocking him out cold. Makoto quickly checked if Nagasawa was okay, realizing he'd dodged without even noticing she was right behind him. Nagasawa, strangely blushing, quickly regained her composure and asked Makoto if the stuffed toy he'd just thrown wasn't supposed to be a gift for Maria. Makoto tensed up, realizing he'd messed up. Later, Mizukawa and Maria were surprised to find the Satsura brothers casually sitting and chatting with Makoto. Mizukawa asked Nagasawa, confused if those guys were her friends. Nagasawa snapped back, asking from what planet Mizukawa saw them as friends. Then she turned to the brothers, demanding how long they planned to stick around. But honestly, both brothers were low-key intimidated by Makoto and admitted they'd follow his orders forever. They quickly apologized to everyone and left. Nagasawa, totally drained by the whole mess, suggested they should head home. Mizukawa and Maria agreed, but Makoto got annoyed and told them to hold on. They still had a dungeon to clear. He asked if they were coming. Maria happily said yes, excited about the idea. Mizukawa also said she was fine with it if everyone agreed. Makoto looked at Nagasawa to see what she thought, but her face told him she probably just wanted to go home. The next day, Makoto checked his phone and got tense seeing that the fight video with the Satsura brothers had gone viral. Already 800,000 views. He was surprised by how famous those brothers were, but also mad they'd filmed him without asking. Just then, his phone rang. It was Kamishiro. Makoto was surprised at first, then remembered they'd swapped numbers back in Okinawa. Kamishiro greeted him and said he'd seen the Satsura brothers' video. Makoto grumbled, saying he was unlucky since he didn't want any attention. Out of nowhere, Kamishiro asked Makoto what level he was at now. Makoto blinked, asking him to repeat. Kamishiro clarified that he wanted to challenge Makoto to a one-on-one fight, confident he could beat him. A few days later, deep inside the G-rank Blue Cave dungeon on the 20th floor, Makoto was busy fighting dragons and clearing them out. Suddenly, stronger dragons showed up and attacked him. Makoto got excited. This was the real challenge he'd been waiting for. One by one, he took down the dragons, and his level kept climbing as he fought. The story then flashed back to Makoto's last conversation with Kamishiro. Kamishiro had said that from the moment they met, Makoto had shown him his status board, which had skills with crazy experience points and unlimited leveling. At first, Kamishiro thought it was funny, but after seeing Makoto fight the Ninetales and beat the Satsura brothers, he realized Makoto was way past level 99. Makoto wasn't sure what Kamishiro was getting at and nervously asked why he wanted to fight him and what the point was. Kamishiro laughed and said he knew it probably didn't mean much to Makoto, but he had always gotten everything he wanted easily, feeling like he was on top of everything before and after the leveling system existed until Makoto showed up. So Kamishiro wanted to really push himself and try to beat Makoto. Makoto felt tense and didn't know what to say. Kamishiro went on and said he wasn't expecting to fight right then and there, knowing Makoto had his own life. Whenever Makoto was ready, Kamishiro would be too. Back to the present, Makoto checked his stats and saw he'd hit level 23-1. He wondered if Kamishiro was right. Maybe even he wouldn't know how to beat someone like that. Then suddenly something dropped from above. It was a girl. She cried out in pain as she landed, making Makoto turn around to see what happened. The girl got up and ran to him happily, asking if he was Makoto. Surprised, Makoto asked how she knew his name. She said she'd watched the Tsuwa brothers video and thought he was really cool. She also asked if he was the one who beat the dragons, and Makoto said yes. Excited, the girl got close and introduced herself as ISO Mickey, thanking Makoto for saving her. Makoto said he didn't remember saving anyone. ISO explained she'd been swallowed whole by a monster, and if Makoto hadn't fought them off, she'd have been stuck there forever. Makoto got nervous, wondering what was going on with her, or if she'd taken something. Then he noticed she wasn't the only one without gear or weapons. He stared at her, lost in thought, which she took as a staring contest, and stared back, trying to show confidence. When she looked straight in his eyes, Makoto got tense and quickly looked away. ISO took a moment to enjoy her win, grinning and saying she'd never actually lost before. She reminded Makoto about their deal that whoever lost would buy burgers. Makoto argued he never agreed to any bet and asked if she'd been alone in the dungeon since he hadn't seen anyone else. ISO said, yeah, she'd gone solo. Makoto was surprised, thinking there was no way someone could get to the 20th floor of a G-rank dungeon alone without gear or weapons, unless they had unlimited level ups or something. He asked her what level she was. She checked and said she was level 22. Then she admitted shyly that she was 18 years old. Makoto was shocked and told her that it seemed impossible to survive a G-rank dungeon at that level. ISO got curious why Makoto thought she was lying and told him to look at her stats for proof. While they were talking, a dragon suddenly appeared, grabbed ISO in its mouth, and flew off. Makoto was shocked, but realized if ISO really was level 22 and had gotten that far, he needed to figure out how she managed it. He watched the dragon tossing her around, blowing fire almost like it was playing with her. Using his magic cloud power, Makoto swooped in to save ISO from the dragon. When he got her back, he was surprised to see she didn't have any injuries at all. He wondered what kind of person she really was. Meanwhile, ISO was just smiling, happy, and said they were holding hands. After Makoto got ISO safe, he asked if she was all right. She just said she was okay. When he pressed how she could be fine after all that, she laughed and said it was obviously because he saved her. Makoto said he didn't mean just the rescue. He meant how she took fire straight on and got swallowed by a dragon without a scratch. ISO smiled and said it was thanks to some special powers she hadn't told anyone about. Watching her, Makoto realized she had a kind of negation ability that made all attacks against her useless. ISO nodded, confirming it. Basically, she was nearly untouchable. Out of nowhere, ISO dared Makoto to try to kill her. At first, he said, no way, but she kept pushing, getting close to him. Eventually, with her face so near, he gave in. He told her to step back, then lightly tapped her forehead. The impact caused a big shock around them, but surprisingly, ISO wasn't harmed at all. Seeing Makoto's reaction, ISO asked if he thought it was cool how a barrier formed over her body to block everything. Makoto was impressed, but warned her low-level players should pick easier dungeons that match their gear and skills. ISO admitted he was right, but said she needed a lot of money fast. Makoto got curious why. She explained she'd been told that rare items from high-level dungeons could be sold for cash. That surprised Makoto. ISO didn't seem like someone who cared about money. After a moment, he said he had to move on to the next floor. ISO said she'd come along and that they should help each other out. On the way, Makoto felt uneasy. Even with her unbeatable skills, something fell off. He worried something bad like before might happen again. Later, ISO found herself surrounded by monster lizards, licking her from both sides. She nervously asked Makoto for help. He wasn't surprised this would happen. ISO said her vision was going blurry and her body was weak, unable to move. Makoto guessed the monsters must have poisoned her. He noticed ISO couldn't dodge attacks that messed with her body state. After they beat the lizards, she was saved, but still poisoned and paralyzed. Makoto gave her some detox herbs, thinking maybe he was treating her like a pet. When she could move again, ISO thanked him. Makoto said it was nothing, but still advised her to pick easier dungeons to level up safely. ISO smiled, but firmly said no. She needed to earn money fast and couldn't do that in easy dungeons. Makoto tried to warn her again, but this time, ISO said she had debts to pay off. Makoto stayed quiet for a moment after hearing her story. ISO explained their parents had died, leaving behind a big debt that she and her sister had to handle. Money was tight for them. Her older sister worked hard to pay off the debts, support ISO's schooling, and even gave her pocket money when she went out. ISO made it clear her sister always put her needs first and cared a lot. She said that's why she wanted to earn money, to clear the debt and let their parents rest easy, and also so her sister could finally enjoy life. She smiled and wondered if she was talking too much, but said she just felt like telling Makoto everything. Makoto got a bit emotional thinking about what Maria had said about her own parents. ISO said she was about to leave, but when she started to walk away, Makoto grabbed her hand and told her to wait. She brightened up and asked what was wrong. Makoto said it was nothing and apologized if he made her uncomfortable. Then, a bit shyly, he said if she was okay with it. He wanted to help her finish the dungeon, whether that meant helping her level up or clearing it together. ISO looked at him surprised. Makoto realized he'd kind of stumbled over his words and apologized if it sounded confusing. ISO squeezed his hand and told him not to worry. She wouldn't forget his offer and hoped he'd keep helping. Makoto wondered if he would have said no before, but maybe ISO's determination made him change his mind. Mostly, though, he thought it was just too risky to leave her alone. On their way, ISO said it felt like having a little brother around. Makoto thought maybe she saw herself as an unreliable older sister. ISO admitted she felt lonely going alone, but having Makoto, who she said was level 20,000, with her made her feel safe. That shocked Makoto so much his face changed instantly. ISO got tense, wondering what was wrong. Makoto started sweating nervously, trying to figure out how she knew about his level. Meanwhile, ISO kept talking, trying to snap him out of his distracted state. Makoto nervously asked how ISO knew his level. She said she accidentally caught a glimpse while falling and realized how strong he was. He felt a bit better, but was still tense about how careless he'd been. Then ISO said she'd work hard to reach level 20,000. Makoto told her the real limit was level 99. ISO was shocked and asked how he got past that. Makoto wished he hadn't said anything, but figured it might be common knowledge. Since she already knew, he explained everything and asked her to keep it secret. She said, okay. The scene switched to the 22nd floor, where they faced a goblin that only threw fireballs. ISO got scared, but Makoto told her not to worry since the goblin only had one attack. He encouraged her to try fighting it. ISO got ready, charged and attacked. The goblin was scared since its fireballs didn't hurt her. Makoto was ready to step in if needed. But after about an hour, ISO defeated the goblin and leveled up 13 levels. While she fought, Makoto ate and praised her, impressed she did it solo. He thought to himself he didn't expect her to manage alone. Her damage immunity made up for her low attack power, so she'd win in a long fight. Makoto asked if she really didn't need his help. ISO said, what? I absolutely needed you. Alone, I just ran and hid. Only because of you did I try fighting. Makoto noticed the axe she was holding and asked about it. Io said it was a dropped item and having a good weapon meant it was time to push forward. She slowly cleared floors up to the 30th, got the flash magic skill, and earned 110 of the experience needed for the next level. Now, they had collected 5 more dropped items: Ex Machina, Exodia, Gargantua, Dragon Mail, and Stone Bomb. Makoto said it was his first time seeing those and didn't know their uses, but trusted the Stone Bomb would work as its name said. ISO was happy thinking these could sell for a lot of money, and Makoto hoped the money would help her pay off debts. On the 35th floor, ISO saw snake monsters and hesitated. But thinking of her sister, she got determined and beat them, leveling up to 60 and gaining a skill called Magical Detoxification. On the 39th floor, ISO faced dragons. Even though scared, she attacked, vowing not to get swallowed again. ISO finally reached level 71. Makoto praised her, saying she probably didn't need his help after all. ISO just smiled and said, no way. I was super scared. That's why you had to come with me. Makoto noticed a skill called Magical Identification and asked what it did. ISO guessed it probably helped her learn more about monsters and items. Makoto was amazed such a skill existed. She tried on her own weapon, and it showed the name Destructive Axe. ISO thought the info might be limited since her skill was only level 1. They tried identifying other unknown items, but got no results. ISO apologized, thinking it was because her skill was low. Makoto told her not to apologize and pointed to a dropped item on the floor before they moved on. The scene moved to the 40th floor, where ISO was amazed by a grand but chilly room. Makoto said it felt colder than usual, like they were close to the bottom. Suddenly, the gate they came through slammed shut, and ISO told Makoto they were trapped. Makoto sensed something else nearby. Looking closer, she spotted a floor boss named Dark Liger appearing out of nowhere. She shouted ISO's name to warn her and wondered if the boss had been waiting there all along. ISO said Dark Liger looked really scary. Makoto asked if ISO could use identification magic on it. ISO tried and said the only weakness she found was holy light magic. Makoto decided she'd hold Dark Liger off while ISO had to defeat it. ISO nodded in agreement. Suddenly, Dark Liger let out a huge roar, shaking them both. Makoto tried using his level 10 ice magic, but it didn't work at all. He couldn't even activate it. She felt something was wrong with the floor. Makoto realized why. Magic was sealed on this floor. Makoto said his magic was sealed, and ISO confirmed she couldn't use magic either. This meant they had to fight without any magic at all. Suddenly, Dark Liger charged at them. ISO told Makoto to leave the fight to her. ISO swung her axe, but when Dark Liger got close, its body split apart like slime. ISO was shocked, and Makoto tried to stay calm. Realizing this boss seemed nearly impossible to beat, she thought she might still handle it even without ISO's help. Then Makoto realized something was off. Dark Liger was sealing magic, but as a floor boss, it shouldn't be able to do that. While thinking, she saw Dark Liger attacking both of them and quickly pushed ISO away. ISO shouted Makoto's name worriedly. Makoto reassured her she was okay. Even though Dark Liger's slimy body was swallowing her whole, ISO said there was no way she was okay. Despite using all his strength, Makoto was still trapped inside the slime. He told ISO to get away and warned her not to touch anything. Dark Liger swallowed Makoto completely, leaving ISO shocked and speechless. Inside, Makoto found himself in a strange space, unsure if it was the boss's stomach or some other dimension. Suddenly, he heard Io calling him from below. He realized he was trapped inside a crystal in that room and decided to break out. He punched the crystal with all his might. It was tough, but not unbreakable. He kept punching, hoping Io could hold on. Meanwhile, Dark Liger attacked ISO, who defended herself with the axe, but fell down. As she fell, an item called Gargantua slipped from her dress. While dodging attacks, she heard a cracking sound. Looking down, she saw Gargantua had cracked open. Suddenly, a huge explosion rocked the floor, forcing Dark Liger to take a defensive stance. From the cracked item, a giant Gargantua appeared. Esso was amazed and relieved, feeling less alone now. Makoto, watching, wondered how Gargantua would fight Dark Liger. Gargantua punched back at Dark Liger, but just like Makoto, it got swallowed too. ISO tensed up, worried. As Gargantua fell beside Makoto inside the slime, Makoto got an idea. She shouted she wasn't finished yet and would use another item if needed. She pulled out Exodia and showed it to Dark Liger, but nothing happened. Frustrated, she shook it, pulled it, then opened it. It looked like a lighter. She lit the lighter, and suddenly a strange creature appeared from it. The scene cut back 3 hours earlier on the 38th floor, where ISO was calmly sitting in a chair. Makoto approached and said she had something for him. ISO replied with a simple, "Okay," but then suddenly vanished right in front of her. ISO tensed up and asked where he had gone. Suddenly, Makoto greeted him from behind, startling ISO. She asked if what she had just seen was magic. Makoto confirmed it was instant relocation via teleportation magic he had just learned from leveling up earlier. He explained that since his teleport skill was only level 1, it consumed a large amount of MP and made him feel slightly nauseous after using it, so he shouldn't overuse it. Makoto reassured him, saying he didn't need to worry much about MP and would get used to it. ISO smiled, finding the whole thing fascinating. Makoto added it had been a while since he got a new skill, so he was excited. The story then jumped back to the present moment, where Makoto mentioned the name Gargantua. Gargantua surprisingly responded with a yes, revealing it could talk. Makoto was shocked but asked Gargantua for help, urging it to destroy any obstacle in their way, be it a wall or the ground. Then Makoto left. Gargantua explained that it was impossible because the space they were trapped in was created by a special crystal that couldn't be destroyed. Even if they managed to crack it, it would repair itself automatically. Makoto then asked if Gargantua could use magic. Gargantua said no, which made Makoto laugh, thinking it was hopeless. But Gargantua surprised her by saying that she could use him as a conduit to channel magic. Makoto, confused, asked what that meant. Gargantua explained that by touching him, a user could imbue him with up to 3 of their magic skills, but each skill could only be used once before needing to be recharged. He also noted that he couldn't use revival or healing magic at all. Makoto asked if sealing magic would work on him. Gargantua said, no, those attacks wouldn't affect him, which pleased Makoto. He then told Gigantua they needed to get out of there. The scene shifted to Iso, who asked the strange fiery creature if he was Exodia. Exodia confirmed, introducing himself as the blazing spirit rising from hell. Iso tense told Exodia she didn't like him at all. Exodia was surprised and asked why. Iso explained that in middle school, a boy who acted exactly like Exodia had flirted with her. Exodia apologized, but asked her not to compare him to such clumsy teenagers. Exodia pointed out that Dark Liger seemed afraid of him and wouldn't dare approach them. He added he wasn't there to chat or waste time since he was ignited by the fiery depths of hell and had been speaking like that for a very long time. Iso, confused, asked what he was rambling about. Exodia told her to simply make a wish, promising he would grant it. Iso hesitated, but confirmed, you really mean a wish? Exodia affirmed that granting wishes was exactly why he appeared, encouraging her to ask for anything she wanted, be it power, money, or something else. Iso asked Exodia to help save Makoto, who'd just been swallowed by Dark Liger. Exodia was surprised she was wishing for someone else, but said it wasn't possible since Makoto was stuck in hyperspace above. Iso yelled at Exodia to save Makoto if he knew where she was. Still shocked, Exodia asked again if that was really what she wanted, explaining that with his power, almost anything could happen. Iso gave a puppy look and said she didn't really want anything else for now. Exodia prepared to grant the wish, but meanwhile, Makoto used teleportation magic with Gargantua's help. Exodia said Iso's wish couldn't be granted after all. Then they saw Gargantua and Makoto appear near Dark Liger. Makoto told Gargantua to freeze Dark Liger with ice magic, and together they froze him solid. Makoto told Iso she was fine and didn't need saving. Gargantua jumped in saying Makoto should thank him because she was safe thanks to him. Makoto thanked Gargantua and Iso felt happy seeing her and ran over. Makoto told Iso he was lucky to get there on time. Iso was confused and asked on time for what. Makoto said she was just about to use her precious wish to save him, but she wanted to keep it for herself. She suggested Iso could finish off Dark Liger instead. Iso was surprised and asked if she was serious. Makoto said yes, reminding him he promised to help her beat the dungeon. Iso happily gave Dark Liger the final hit and finally reached level 99. Iso picked up a dropped item called Dark Sphere. Makoto asked what it was and Iso guessed it must be something awesome. Then Exodia appeared from behind and asked if they were going to keep him waiting, telling them to say their wish. Iso apologized while Makoto was amazed. Exodia waited so patiently. Iso thought for a moment and said she didn't have a wish right now. Exodia said he liked Iso because she was interesting and told her she could call him anytime. Makoto asked if that was really okay. Iso said Makoto already helped a lot, so now she had to handle the rest herself. Makoto laughed, saying he didn't really do anything. Iso was impressed that even after everything, Makoto said that. She then gave Makoto a high five. Makoto wondered how much they'd get from all this, and ISO suggested they get something to eat first. That'll be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed and have a bosh fool day. Yes, they forced me to say that.